let's kick off with a question about their manager at the moment, Graham Potter. Obviously, he had a tricky start to his time. Few wins in recent weeks. Big win over Dortmund in the Champions League. Got Real Madrid in the next round. Do you feel that the Brighton have pulled Chelsea's pants down with the amount that Chelsea had to pay for his services, 21.5 million?
No, not at all. Do you know what? I think Graham Potter deserves the opportunity to manage up. I think if you look at his whole managerial career, he's worked his way up through the ranks. You know, Östersunds and Swansea did good jobs at both those clubs. Then went into Brighton, really improved Brighton as a team. They were good to watch on the eye. I get why Chelsea brought him in. It's been a bit of a topsy-turvy start. He actually started quite well and then went on a horrendous run. But I think there are other issues at the club. But I do think that they are right to stick with Graham Potter and persist with him.
Yeah, I think obviously it would be pretty harsh to pull the trigger on him this early in his career. Looks like he's going to get next season as well. Do you think he's got what it takes to bring the Premier League title to Chelsea?
Oh, blimey, can he bring a Premier League title to Chelsea? I think with the investment which Chelsea have had, it's about him gelling all the players together. I mean, it wouldn't be a total shock to me, you know, in time, if it looks like Graham Potter is going to get time at Chelsea. We know under previous owners, he probably, you know, would have had the sack. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But, you know, patience is a good thing. And, I mean, what Antonio Conte did, I think, from the 10th position, he took over, I think, the Chelsea team over and won the title. I'm not going to say it's going to happen under Graham Potter. I don't think it will, because of the strength of Manchester City and Arsenal are a really formidable young team. But I think Graham Potter will dramatically improve Chelsea next season.
Yeah, I think obviously he's got a lot to work with in terms of the players that they brought into the club. He might not have had too much say in some of those signings, but nonetheless, there was a lot of talent there. A couple of players that he's missed in terms of injury, Reece James and Ben Chilwell, are back now. How important are they to his attacking philosophy?
Yeah, they're absolutely massive, you know, for Graham Potter, the way that he likes to play. I think Chilwell, you know, especially gives them great balance on that left-hand side. Reece James is a top player. You know, it's good for England. You know, it's really important for Chelsea that if they do really want to kick on Chelsea and have a strong end to the season, then those players need to be fit and stay fit. Chelsea are far better off with those two players in the team.
Do you feel Chelsea fans must see Arsenal with Bukayo Saka, Emil Smith-Rowe, some of these players that have come up through the ranks, through the Hale End Academy, and now they're making it on the big stage, whereas Chelsea got rid of some of their youngsters, Callum Hudson-Odoi, the likes of Fikayo Tomori, Tammy Abraham. They've sold these players, yet they seem to be doing well at the clubs they've gone to. Do you think they regret some of those decisions as a club?
Do you know what? I don't think they really care about that or would think like that. I think from the outside, you know, people within the media and looking at Chelsea would have raised eyebrows about, you know, letting the likes of Tomori go, especially when you see him doing really well at Milan, and Tammy Abraham. That's a really interesting one, Tammy Abraham, because you know, the criticism of Chelsea is that they don't have a proper centre forward, and out number 9. Tammy Abraham is that, and you know, they decided to let him go. That was a bit of a strange one, but of course they expected Lukaku to come in and have a stormer, which he didn't do. Kai Havertz doesn't. That's not his favourite position, playing as a number 9, is a makeshift. So you know, it'll be interesting when looking at the Abraham situation.
They do have an option to buy him back this summer for £68 million. Is that something you can see them taking up?
Oh, blimey! You put me on the spot there. Abraham back to Chelsea.
It seems like a reasonable price.
Yeah, do you know what? It's one of those that, you know, I could see happening. You know, I think he's done pretty well at Roma. I suppose the question is, do Chelsea need any more bodies in the door? I mean, their squad is top heavy anyway, but they don't. You know, the criticism of Chelsea is they have lots of creative players, but they don't have somebody to stick the ball in the net. So I actually think that'd be a smart piece of business to bring Tammy Abraham back.
I think, yeah, because obviously Aubameyang looks like his time at Chelsea is done now. So Lukaku, like you said, he's still a Chelsea player. He's got 3 years left on his contract, but Can you actually see him playing for the club again?
He can't. I mean, he's twice now. Lukaku's been there. Sometimes, it just feels that a club isn't the right fit for a player. I don't think he'd want to come back in truth, Lukaku. I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. With Aubameyang, it was sort of unfortunate for him the way it panned out. I mean, his attitude at Arsenal was really poor in the end, and he slunk off to Barcelona, and then coming in at Chelsea, I'm not so sure it was ever going to work. And the fact that he seems like he's been totally pushed out now from Graham Potter, then there's an inevitable end going to happen there.
Yeah, it does look like the end of the road for him. In terms of, obviously, you mentioned that the squad is pretty bloated there at Chelsea. They've got far too many midfield players, really far too many attackers. Who do you think Potter's looking to get rid of, get sort of off the wage bill and create some more harmony within his squad?
With regards to creating harmony within a football team, sort of results help and winning helps. That's the biggest thing. Normally, when results go badly, everybody blames each other. That's the way it always worked when I played. But in terms of players who Chelsea are going to let go, I think Ziyech, there's an inevitability about him leaving the club. Really talented player. I'm sorry for him, it hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
Pulisic is an interesting one. He's on the periphery, but do you know what? At this moment in time, I don't necessarily think that Graham Potter will have any hard and fast rules. I think he'll be looking to the end of the season, and if players have strong ends to the season, then he'll make that decision then. But what he does know, Graham Potter, is that he's been given a big stay of execution this season. The owner has stuck with him. And that may be, the owners had faith in Graham Potter. I quite like that. And he probably understands how difficult it is with all these players coming in, big fees to gel a team together. So, I really hope it works out for Graham Potter next season. But, he'll need to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I suppose the summer pre-season, at least he'll get a chance to kind of put his philosophy into action without having to play a game every sort of 4 days, which is what he's doing at the moment. Must be difficult. Do you think he'll be looking to appoint a new captain? Obviously, Cesar Azpilicueta's out of contract, not this summer, but the summer after, but he's got injury problems as well. Do you think he's going to put a stamp on the team with a captaincy selection or not?
But I don't. It'll be an interesting one. I think if Azpilicueta sees out his last year, which is, I think probably unlikely, because Azpilicueta being the type of guy he is, I know he loves Chelsea, but he'll want to play games, won't he? So, if he leaves, no, it's an interesting one, really. Who would step into the captaincy role? I mean, the obvious choice is Thiago Silva, isn't it? If he's fit, he's been an absolute warrior throughout his career. So I suspect that that he would get the armband.
Yeah, it could be not a long-term choice, but someone to sort of tide the team over until another candidate.
But football's not a long-term game.
That's very true. You're right. Results business, need to get the job done. Yeah. Okay, well, moving on from Chelsea onto another of your former teams, Celtic. Obviously, you've got the latest Old Firm clash coming up. I think it's next weekend, isn't it? But
April the 8th.
April the 8th, that's right.
Yeah.
I've just had a look at some of the stats surrounding Celtic and Rangers before leading up to this game. Celtic have had 7 penalties awarded against them in the SPL this season. Rangers haven't had a single penalty awarded against them since January last year.
What are you saying? Owen?
I'm wondering, is there an element of, Celtic are easier to give penalties against from a referee's perspective than Rangers, or is it just purely coincident? What do you reckon?
What a question that is.
Yeah, that is a big discrepancy, though, you've got to say.
It's a big discrepancy. Yeah, look, I mean, they've had VAR up in Scotland start halfway through the season, which is absolute madness. But no, I mean, an observation of mine over the years is, I suspect that I don't know this, but I suspect that Rangers have, been awarded far more penalties than Celtic over the years, and but I really don't know. I mean, that's a really interesting stat.
It's weird.
We'll have to put that to the people of Glasgow.
Yeah.
To argue that one out.
Wait and see if any penalties get given in the Old Firm, and then we'll have to come back after that, won't we? So
Celtic will get the penalty, eventually awarded to them. And
yeah.
I think in European competition, actually, it's interesting that stat in the league, because in Europe, I might be right in saying that Rangers had in the Champions League 6 penalties awarded against them in the Champions League.
Did they?
But they get them in the Champions League, but just not domestic. I don't know why.
Who knows? Who knows?
I don't know. I don't know what you're inferring there.
No, fair enough. We'll leave it at that. Do you have any prediction for this Old Firm coming up? I think it's another win for Celtic. They haven't lost one yet this season, have they?
No. Look, I think it's one that Rangers absolutely have to win. They're going to Celtic Park. I mean, it's a shambles, the fact that no away fans will be allowed into that game. I think Scottish football, for the profile of Scottish football, I think it's awful, because they're 2 giant clubs, and going back to when I played, Celtic used to take 6,000 or 7,000 away fans to Ibrox, and the same vice versa. It makes a better spectacle. It's watched around the world, this game. Yeah. And, I don't like that. In terms of the result, I think it'll be quite close, because Rangers have to go in with the attitude. There's a 9-point gap in the league. Celtic have a far superior goal difference. Rangers have to win the game. That means they have to open up. Are they going to be brave enough to do that? They sort of have to. That forces their hand. That they know what they have to do. And after Celtic, I know the cup final was only 2-1, but Celtic were by far superior. The pressure's really on Michael Beale in this one. But I think Celtic at home will narrowly win this one. I think it'll be a close game, though.
Okay, one to look forward to there. Obviously, Ange Postecoglou, he's done a fantastic job since coming in as Celtic manager. Possibly too good in some ways. He's being linked with jobs down south now in the Premier League. Tottenham obviously have a vacancy coming up at the end of the season. Conte's gone, but they've got the standard man now. Do you think he's got what it takes to get success in the Premier League?
Do you think he hasn't got what it takes? I mean, of course he has what it takes to make it in the Premier League. You only need to scratch beneath the surface to look at this guy's managerial record. 25, 26 years he's been coaching and managing. And what's he achieved? Well, I'll tell you what he's achieved. Every club he's been at, he's been a success at, and he's a builder of teams. He's a builder of clubs. He's gone into Celtic, didn't need to bring staff in with him. He's self-sufficient. He believes in himself. And people always forget. I always bring people back to Ange Postecoglou's start. All the talk was about Eddie Howe coming in. Ange Postecoglou then gets the job, and Eddie Howe turns the job down. And he was late in terms of coming in and recruitment, and he was behind. Had to play kids in his first Champions League game against Midtjylland at centre half. Things didn't work out. He lost 3 of the first 6 games as Celtic manager. But, he has been a revelation in terms of his recruitment has been first class, and the style of play, watching Celtic, they are a really good watch. They're a very attacking team, play with the inverted fullbacks, and he has transformed the team and transformed Scottish football in many respects in terms of the style of football that Celtic play. So, if you're asking me, could he manage in the Premier League? He could manage in any league in the world. Absolutely no doubt about that.
Oh, glowing endorsement there from Chris Sutton. Okay. So he's done it on the international stage as well, hasn't he, with Australia and good credentials. So Tottenham potentially could be looking at him. We'll wait and see, I suppose. In terms of Kieran Tierney, obviously Arsenal bought him from Celtic, hasn't really had much of a consistent run in the team this season. Could you see Celtic making a move to bring him back?
No. That's not going to happen. I love Kieran Tierney, as a player. Total admiration for him. I feel for him at Arsenal, because I don't think it's not the fact that Arteta doesn't rate him. I think he does, but Zinchenko going in there has been really first class, and he likes Zinchenko coming into that midfield area, into the inverted position, and he's more at ease with that than Kieran Tierney is. But just the whole sort of financial aspect, I just can't see that happening. Kieran Tierney going back to Celtic on loan, maybe in years to come, but certainly not at this moment in time.
No, fair enough. In terms of Player of the Year in Scotland, who have you got your eye on? Who's impressed you the most?
Rio Hatate, the Celtic midfielder. I love watching him. I really do. His sort of appetite for the game, but the way he takes the ball in, the way he manoeuvres the ball, he'll end up down in the Premier League. I've got no doubt about that. Yeah. And I love his willingness to learn and develop. But I've been super impressed with him. And second would be Kyogo, the Celtic centre forward. Ali McCoist keeps writing this guy off. I mean, he's sort of a few times wondered whether he could play in the Premier League. Is another guy so humble. Says he's not the finished article. He's 28 years old. He's still got a lot of improvements to make. I love that. When do you hear footballers talk like that? And but his movement is really first class. So Player of the Year in Scotland, number 1 Rio Hatate, number 2 Kyogo Furuhashi.
Sounds good to me. In terms of transfer speculation with the summer transfer window coming up, going back to your former club Chelsea, Mason Mount, someone that you think kind of embodies the club, yet his future is still up for debate. He's not put pen to paper on a new contract. Allegedly wants 240 grand a week. Do you think he's pushing the boat out a bit there? Do you think his future is at Chelsea, or can you see him elsewhere?
What do you mean pushing the boat out? Asking for £240,000 a week?
Oh,
hey, look. What I think he's changed agent. I think I might not be 100% right, but I heard he changed agent, and he may have had his head turned. It's a really interesting one for the points you made. Is it Chelsea boy has come up through the ranks? He loves the club, but something clearly is amiss in terms of the money which he's asking for. He would have looked around and seen what other players are getting and thinking, well, do you know what, I'm as good as them, if not better than them, and I want parity with my wages. So I sort of understand the way he's feeling in that respect, but something isn't right, and maybe I'm sure he has had offers elsewhere, but it's not a good look necessarily for him or Chelsea. The fact that there's probably a deal to be done, but for some reason that deal isn't getting over the line, which leads us to think that he'll probably be on his way somewhere. And the new agent thing's always odd. When players change agent, they do that for a reason. So it'll be interesting. Chelsea will have to make him one hell of an offer, otherwise it looks like he'll be on off elsewhere.
So one to watch. I wonder where he'll end up, whether it might be abroad or Liverpool have been linked with him as well, but it's all speculation at this point, isn't it? So, but Chelsea have got a player on loan in João Felix, who's looked pretty excellent, apart from obviously getting sent off in his debut, which was far from ideal. But it was going to take 100 million euros to make that transfer permanent. What's your verdict on that? Worth the money?
He's worth what Chelsea are willing to pay for him.
I think there's actually a clause in the contract, isn't there? So it would have to be that amount.
Yeah. I've got to say, I've sort of become lost with financial fair play and how it works. I mean, Chelsea, they may put him on a 15-year contract. They've been banging out these lengthy contracts, but they'll,
they've been doing lengthy contracts for a while, haven't they? Because I think, didn't you sign a 6-year contract?
Yeah, but that was back in the old days. But there does seem to be something in this. Badiashile, signed a 7-year deal. I think Mudryk was 7, may have even been longer, which is absolutely crazy. But if Chelsea are wanting to do it that way, and then it's all above board, then they're entitled to do that. But I suspect the fact that he has made an impact, a noticeable impact, that if they can get that deal done, then that would be common sense, really.
Yeah, obviously Declan Rice and Mason Mount are very good friends, according to what you see on social media. If Declan leaves West Ham, Arsenal are in there, you've got Man City in there, Chelsea. Is there going to be a bidding war for him this summer?
Oh, I think so. I think so. I think, in fairness, his club form may have suffered a little bit this season. He's still a really important player for West Ham, but there's no doubt he will want away from West Ham. He'll want to challenge for big trophies. That's not to say West Ham can't win a cup. I mean, there's a good chance to win the Conference League. That would be a massive disappointment, I suspect. If they didn't get over the line in that competition, but it is time for him to move on. I don't think any West Ham fans will begrudge him that, albeit some might be angry when he does leave, just because
depends where he turns up next.
Yeah, exactly. So be interesting where he turns up. I mean, you mentioned Liverpool. Liverpool I think it's a big problem area for them midfield. So a big team crying out for a top midfielder would be Liverpool. Arsenal, again, really interesting. Thomas Partey, Jorginho are in that position. Is Declan Rice an upgrade? I think he's, certainly slightly different to Jorginho. And Manchester United, who knows what's going on there? They've got this sort of bidding war at this moment in time. They'll want to improve the team. So, but the move which makes sense at this moment in time is, for me, I've actually never seen him linked with Liverpool, would be Liverpool, really.
I think they want Jude Bellingham ideally, but if they can't get him, then I think that they'll start looking.
But they're sort of not the same players, and Liverpool needs virtually a whole new midfield. Klopp's been very loyal to the likes of Fabinho and Milner and Henderson. And they need a wholesale change. So it may not just be Bellingham, and unless Liverpool get in that Champions League spot, then he may not want to go there anyway.
True. Well, it'll be interesting this summer. Obviously, another person his future's been speculated about a lot is Harry Kane. Do you think he's going to just stay at Tottenham like a modern day Matt Letizia, or do you think he'll actually look for pastures new?
Harry's one of their own, isn't he? Until he wanted to clear off to Manchester City the other year. He's got true.
Well, player manager role.
He could do. Yeah. If he's got any real genuine ambition, and I get both sides of this, right? But if he has any real genuine ambition of winning a trophy, then he's got to leave. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's okay breaking all the personal accolades, and take my hat off to him. He's a brilliant centre forward. He's not just a goal scorer. He's an excellent footballer. But there must come a time in his career where he's thinking, it's okay. I'm winning Player of the Year every season at Tottenham. I'm Golden Boot winner, England's all-time leading scorer. That's brilliant. But you want to have that feeling of actually winning something, and the chances are he's not going to get that at Tottenham. So eventually it will be too late for him to move. So if I was him, I'd leave. I think most players I played with, would say the same thing. But I do get the loyalty angle as well. But come on, why do you go into your career? You go into your career to win team trophies.
Do you remember Teddy Sheringham made quite a late move in his career from Tottenham to Manchester United and won plenty of trophies? So it could be a thing that he might be eyeing up. He's still he's not 30 yet, is he? Or is he?
No, and Manchester United, Weghorst, he's done all right. Weghorst, the fans love him, but he's not Harry Kane, is he?
Far from it, really. But yeah, we'll see. But speaking of Tottenham, obviously now they are managerless. Everyone remembers Mauricio Pochettino as the man who nearly got them to the silverware, but couldn't quite do it. Do you see him being the number one choice of the fans to kind of get back there? Or do you think he should never?
Is he the number one choice of the fans? I don't know. Do you know what? I think I haven't got a clue with this one. I don't know whether there'd be a split, really. Pochettino was much loved in the fact he got them to a Champions League final, improved the team, gets the club, gets the stuff about the brand of football. That was Conte's downfall, really. I think a lot of Spurs would like him back, but then, you sort of see Nagelsmann now lost his job at Bayern Munich. Yeah. And I think that everything I've read looks like, he's making a play for the job. But Stellini in charge to the end of the season, I think, with Ryan Mason. That that's just a stopgap. It wouldn't surprise me, if somebody did come in before the end of the season, if Daniel Levy can crack a deal. Mm-hmm. But it'll be interesting whether Pochettino is the one to come back. I'm not so sure they'll go down that route, which probably means he'll be the next manager.
Well, we'll see. I think Nagelsmann could be a good shout. Actually, I think that's a valid point. Moving on to, I've got some questions down here about fellow pundits. Which pundit that you work with talks the most nonsense? I didn't write that question. Robbie Savage.
Most of what comes out of Robbie's mouth doesn't make sense.
I think I saw him in the crowd at the Wales-Croatia game on TV. Looking very.
No, he's Robbie's a good guy. I love working with him on 606. We do often have opposing views, which make my views right.
Makes for good radio.
No, he's a good guy, Robbie.
What are your thoughts on Simon Jordan and his TalkSport show?
Do you know what? I don't listen to TalkSport. I'm a loyal 5 Live man, but I'm aware. I've seen some of the clips. Look, he's a smart guy. He loves a spat, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's he speaks very well, and he's clearly well prepped and well educated, and good for him. But I don't sort of listen to TalkSport much.
Fair enough. Loyal to your employers. I like it. But yeah, he does get stuck in, doesn't he? He doesn't hold back.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Okay. I don't know if you saw the BBC pundits Premier League predictions. They got brought up again the other day because, let's be honest, everyone's got it wrong. No one had Arsenal to win the league. I think there was about 25 on the list. No one had Arsenal. In fact, you didn't even have Arsenal in the top 4. So how surprised have you been by Arsenal this season?
Oh wow! I mean, even Arsenal fans will have been surprised by this. I mean, just remember, a lot of these Arsenal fans wanted Arteta out, not so.
Hey.
They all deny it. They all say it wasn't me. It wasn't me. There's always somebody else, but they did. But and this, we talked about Graham Potter earlier, but this is the importance of actually, earmarking your manager, sticking with the guy, and they're coming to the fore. I think they've been brilliant. I like everybody else throughout the season kept thinking, well, they're gonna have a big blip. That hasn't happened. When they lost to Manchester City at home, my prediction, I think, was Manchester City to win the Premier League. When they lost to City at home, I was thinking, that City will rein them in and they'll have a wobble. But that once again hasn't happened. I love what Arteta's doing. I love the bravery of the young players. Saka, especially. I mean, is there a better right winger in the world? I don't think so. I really don't think so. He's 21. Martinelli's flying. I was worried when Gabriel Jesus got injured. He's now coming back. I think he's massive for them. But no, it's they're in front. I still think there's a long way to go, and there may be this wobble. But what a job Arteta's done.
A great job, hasn't he? Yeah, it's true. He's obviously been accused of acting like a clown on the touchline at times. Do you think he's toned it down and actually kind of taken some of that criticism on board, or do you think he's just maturing a bit as a manager?
Look, I mean, there's no doubt he has acted like a clown in the technical area at times, and the punters love all that stuff. They do love it. They love seeing the manager jumping up and around and animated and in the fourth official's face. Punters love that sort of thing, but I think it's a bit of an act at times. He'll say different to that, but fans like to see managers passionate. But the most important thing is what he's saying in the sanctuary of the dressing room, and clearly the messages which he's getting across and the work he's doing on the training ground are working with this Arsenal team. But all that jumping around isn't for me
necessary. This is totally removed from how Arsene Wenger used to be, didn't he? Just sitting on the bench and then Arsenal scored.
I mean, he could have, he could have been slightly more animated. He was like a statue, wasn't he?
He was a bit,
just somewhere in between.
Yeah, the middle ground. That's it. That's the place to be. That's to be. Okay, in terms of PFA Player of the Year, obviously Haaland is the bookie's favourite, but then you got Odegaard's 5-1, Saka 8-1. Do you think 8-1's a big price for Saka? Would you be tempted to put a bit of a Wonga on Saka at 8-1.
You can't see past Haaland. Haaland's.
Yeah.
I mean, Haaland. Well, I mean, it's voted for by fellow players. So I would be shocked if everybody didn't vote for Haaland. But I get the Saka, I get the Odegaard. I certainly get that. I think they'll be second and third. Odegaard's so important for Arsenal. That important, I forgot to mention him previously. But he's he is such an important player for them, and he's the link man who keeps things ticking in that final third. But you can't look past Haaland. You just can't. The guy is, in the nicest possible way, a freak, isn't he? You can't come into the Premier League, the biggest, the best league in the world, and he's made it look so easy. I mean, how many hat tricks has he scored? I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, crazy. Well, speaking of Odegaard, did you see he was playing for Norway against Spain, had a shot, and Rodri absolutely wiped him out right on the ankle. You see, there's Arsenal fans on social media going ballistic, saying Pep sent him out to kick Odegaard, and now Kieran Tierney playing for Scotland against Spain on Tuesday. Something might happen there. Keep an eye on that. Tierney and Rodri.
I think there's a good chance Kieran Tierney wiping somebody out anyway. So I mean, I don't think he in footballing terms, he doesn't take any prisoners. He never had. So watch this space. But I can understand. Listen, I totally get Arsenal fans getting sort of concerned and angry about stuff like that, because we're now in the running, and this is when it counts. And this international week is a nightmare. Just imagine, Arteta. Having to watch his play, or he won't be watching his players play. I think he'll, I don't know whether he's got a dog. If he has, take the dog for a walk and just come back and make sure everything's all right, because it's so important. Because if Arsenal are going to win the league, I think that they need Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard. They need to keep them fit.
Well, you heard Erik ten Hag claiming that Arsenal have been lucky with injuries this season, forgetting perhaps that Gabriel Jesus has missed 3 months and Partey's missed parts of the season. Do you think that's what's going through his head with that claim?
A bit of sour grapes, maybe. Maybe a bit of jealousy. Look, I mean, Arsenal, I don't think you say they've been lucky with injuries. The players have, obviously doing the right things and working hard. They'll be doing stuff pre-training to make sure that, they're conditioned and ready to play, and then warming down correctly after games. That's not to say Manchester United players aren't doing the same things. And some seasons are, you in terms of keeping players fit, you're not going to say luckier than other seasons, but it's a consequence of Arsenal having that continuity while they're doing so well. But I think Erik ten Hag, he's done a good job at Manchester United, but he's probably jealous to, look up and see Arsenal just miles ahead of them at the minute.
Well, yeah, I suppose Man United have had a greater workload in terms of the cup runs they've been on as well. So maybe that's played a part, whereas Arsenal went out early doors, perhaps tactically. Who knows? We'll never know.
I don't think they went out tactically, but I know you mean.
No, but it obviously has benefited them, and now they're only playing once a week for the run-in. So I think, touch wood, as an Arsenal fan, hopefully we won't have too many injuries. Ten Hag will have to watch Arteta lifting that trophy and think about things. But yeah, if Arsenal do go on to win the Premier League, will it be second only to Leicester's title win 6 years ago?
What about Blackburn Rovers?
Blackburn, that's a very good shout.
You probably weren't born then.
Oh, I was. It's my first Premier League game that season, actually. Arsenal versus Oldham. So I was.
I mean, it's not gonna beat Leicester, is it? Because whoever saw it. But then I don't want to say that because where Arsenal have come from, nobody gave them a chance of winning the title this season. Absolutely nobody. I mean, it's an incredible story. I mean, you always go back to, you're an Arsenal fan. You always go back to the late 90s where they had a brilliant team. The 97, 98 team were unbelievable. And then you had the Invincibles, and then Arsenal have had all these years of hurt, and the supporters all, moaning and grumbling. How are we going to get back to that level again? So to be where they are at this moment in time, I mean, it would be an incredible Premier League with one of the greatest ever, but not quite Leicester.
Not quite that good. Yeah, fair enough. I agree. All right, one final question before I let you go. Did you watch England yesterday, I presume, against the Ukraine?
Yeah.
Yeah, good performance, I thought, in general. James Maddison finally getting a start, finally getting the nod from Southgate. How impressed were you by his performance?
Yeah, I love James Maddison. Well, his links to Norwich City started off at Norwich, actually went up to Aberdeen on loan, didn't he, back to Norwich, and then done really good things at Leicester. There was always the issue with Maddison, with Gareth Southgate, where I wondered whether it was an attitude thing, and there's a few rumblings, weren't there, where he didn't I think he didn't turn up, or he was in a casino one evening when he said he was ill, something like that. But there's no doubting his talent as a player. He's a brilliant player, and I think many people, myself included, thought he should have got the opportunity to start long before now. Mm-hmm. What he has done, though, is that he's knuckled down, he's trained well, and I think he's going to be hard to oust from the team. I really do. I think he's a little bit different to Grealish. He's not such a dribbler, but I think in terms of impact, I think that he could make a greater impact than Jack Grealish. But it's good for Gareth; he's got all those options. But good for Maddison that he did play well.
And do you think he might be looking to get a move away from Leicester this summer, or do you think he's happy where he is?
Well, if you're him, what would you do? I mean, he's been heavily linked with Newcastle, hasn't he, James Maddison? Yeah. And with respect to Leicester, I mean, we can't see them challenging for a title again. That's not going to happen. And a bit like Harry Kane. I mean, if you're really ambitious and you have the opportunity, why wouldn't you go to a top club?